Look in my eyes for my mind state. I'm on the grind 25 days. Money on my mind, that's how I play. If you got it now, this what I say. Hold up, hold up, hold up, wait. Hold up, hold up, hold up, wait.
And we back, and we back, and we back.
On the quiet storm.
What episode are we on, guys? I forgot. 22, right?
22.
35.
72, hut.
27, 35, 48, a do, a 35, 48.
35,
What is it?
45, 47.
Oh, that's my fault. I'm bad. I'm terrible at this. I haven't seen it for a while.
Quarantine,
Yeah.
you lost your mind.
I lost a lot of things in this quarantine. The things we lost in the fire. Anyway, moving on. Episode 22, season 3.
The
Swerve
quiet
City Podcast.
storm.
Swole wants to be a midnight,
I do.
what's it called?
A
DJ?
midnight Leon Phelps.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be.
Sexy ladies, man.
Sexy ladies,
And
man.
we're here with Damian Priest. What's going on, my brother?
Trying to live forever, you know.
Well,
I hope you do. In
I'm
times like
taking
this.
that.
I really do.
Yeah. Well, at least past this situation that we got going on.
It's bad out here,
Yeah.
brother. It's bad.
Consider that one stolen, D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to live forever. Yeah, I'm taking it.
Yep. What's going
forever,
on?
forever young.
Episode 22. Who was our last guest we had up in here? It was. Who was it?
Kayla.
You guys.
It was Kayla. Yeah.
thank you, Swole.
Hold
I
on.
wasn't even here.
How did she know?
Because, look, you got to know your craft.
You guys work here, right?
What?
I'll point and click, man. I'm like, hey, Cy, push the button, do the thing, and the show
Push the
runs.
button.
That's how I go. Yeah, and I'd be like, Teasy, post something, and I'd be Swole.
Be me.
Swole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's how the show operates. But, man, what y'all been up to since the last episode? Swole wasn't here, so what's been going on? What's been goody?
Man, I'm becoming an adult. So this has been a nice little moment for me.
I'm a
and,
spoiler. Y'all got a house.
You know what? I was just about to go into, it is just like Nakers, man. Just ruined everything. That's you. That's you, mister. Huh? I wasn't.
Robert Ory.
Right. But yeah, getting a house, moving on up in the world. So I'm very happy about that. So, the Johnson family for getting up there. Also trying to work on these quarantine pounds. I gained a couple, but the abs and all the, everything's coming back one rep at a time. That's what I've been doing.
That's a huge accomplishment. I'm
Hey,
proud of you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Big Swole.
Big Swole in a Big Swole house.
The Swerve's house, now it's Swole's house.
It
Oh,
is.
see what I did there?
You did. You
Okay.
tried to bring it on back.
I
for
tried.
Popping my own.
Yeah.
What you been up to, T?
Well, me. Well, first of all,
I gotta zoom in closer on IG Live for that head, bro.
get
Wow,
that.
why you gotta get on his
We're
head
all pointing
again?
phones at each other, which is kind of funny. So you I gotta find your face.
you gotta
find your face.
Finding the phone, right? You're like,
It's like, wait, what?
before we get into anything, make sure you go to iTunes,
Spotify, Google Play.
Google Play,
Google
all your
Play.
digital markets, and get from Humble Beginnings, which is out right now.
Yes.
Before I get into anything about myself, make sure you guys go out and get that album. It's been greatly reviewed, and
I'm in 2020.
I want
Great album.
I want everybody also to leave your comments, subscribe, let us know exactly what you think of the project. It was a long time coming, a full year into the album. So I like to hear what your favorite songs are on the project. So that's my thing.
If you know the lyrics, please type them down.
And also, too, for the podcast, make sure when you go to the YouTube channel, not only but hit that notification bell as well. Because a lot of people be like, oh, I missed this episode. Well, if you just go to subscribe and click over to the bell over on the next part of the YouTube,
Yep.
you
Right
go
there.
to
YouTube.com//
Swerve City Podcast. That's how you spell it. And when you subscribe, go to all. So every time we go live, anytime we have any content on our YouTube, you guys will get the notification right to your phone, laptop, tablet, whatever device you guys are using. So that answers that. But me, I've been chilling, man. I've been good. I just been working out, staying focused, man, on the grind, bro. Just out here, just making music, writing music. Got a lot of things that I'm working on. Staying busy, man. Actually, there is something that I am low key working on. I'm working on some new trying to get some movie scripts in, man. I'm trying to work on my I'm trying to work on my movie writing. I got some ideas that I'm trying to write, and I gotta holler at Sai about that. But yeah, they probably trash, but you know, I figured I'd holler at my dog.
They're probably not trash. What you mean?
We'll get them right. Yeah, I gotta holler at the guy with the experience.
Yeah,
on that.
hire a priest so you can get the black version of Sons of Anarchy going. I would watch that.
Hey man,
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll die first for $200. It don't matter to me.
Like, oh,
Damn.
I'll die first for $200.
All right.
I won't be first. And I won't.
Before we get into the interview, we got to shout out the man that made all this possible, our number one favorite fan and sponsor around Seattle. Thank you for the microphones. Thank you for the banner. Jesus is our number one.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 number signs. I made that. But yeah, the banners,
Thank
the
you.
lighting. Without you, none of this is possible. Always want to shout you out. Thank you for everything you do. Follow me at Around Seattle on Twitter. Yeah. Now, to the guest of the evening, Mr. Damian Priest. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man.
Second introduction.
Second, yeah. Hold on, let me.
No, you good. Keep it going.
Nah, I can't do too many things at once.
Yeah, you
I,
know
I
what?
I can't handle it.
Yeah, sure.
I can't handle
The
it.
pressure is too much for him.
But I'm doing all right, you know, considering, you know, the way the world is. I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah, you're from New York City, man, so I know you're feeling for your city right now. It's looking really bad out there right now.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean.
how's your family doing, first of all?
For the most part, everybody's all right. I do
Yeah.
have some family. My godfather actually is in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But he's recovering though, so it's good.
So
but
it's
it's just a bad situation, you know. There's just so many people, and then you got that subway system, and it's just unfortunate because it's just people are forced to just being loaded in crowds there.
Right.
So of course, everything naturally in a place like that is gonna get worse immediately, but they're making through. New Yorkers are pretty strong, and resilient.
Y'all
95.
strongest
They'll
outfit.
be
I
all right.
ain't gonna lie.
Man,
Super
so talk about growing up in New York City, man, before
Yeah.
the crisis of what's going on right now.
So, I mean, I was born in New York, and then when I was basically a baby, I was taken to Puerto Rico. So I was raised for the first 10 years in Puerto Rico. Spanish was my first language, actually. But then once I was in New York, I lived with my dad in the Bronx. You know, it's New York, you know what I mean? Especially in the 80s and 90s, it was rough. You know, we didn't have a lot, but a lot of people didn't. You know, we made do.
Yeah.
But I always I'm grateful for the way I was raised, like in a city like that and that neighborhoods like that, because I feel like it molds us. You know, you're molded by your upbringing. So, and I feel like I don't know what I would be like if it wasn't from New York and from that area. You know,
I always like hearing the stories of people coming from tough backgrounds. That always builds the character. I love it because like even in movies when you watch biopics and stuff of like some of your favorite athletes or some historical figures and stuff, they always come from something really tough in the beginning, man. And I think that builds character for your future. So it's hard to look at it when you're already in it. It's like
Right.
when you get through it, that's where it's a great.
The breaking
tale.
down is what builds people the
Yes.
most. It's that
Absolutely.
low point
Yeah.
and how you get back up from that.
and you could always tell when somebody's from or brought up in a certain situation
Right.
because they have just a different way about them, a different way they walk, a different way they talk, and
Opposed from just being a New Yorker.
right.
Like something different about you. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. No, but there is, and I think as long as it's handled in a positive way, usually people come off really well off. You know, once they leave that atmosphere, they're usually better off for it because of what they had to deal with, and they're more appreciative.
Yeah, 95% of my family's up there now.
Okay.
So a lot of them have been house stricken. They haven't even left the house in like 2 weeks. So a lot of my aunts, uncles, majority of my family, my home base is there. So just seeing like what's been happening and knowing a lot of my family members, actually one of my cousins ended up catching the virus. So seeing how that is affected the community up there and seeing how people are talking. It's funny you said when people move and they adapt. A lot of my family's like, oh, we're coming down to Florida when this is all over because they're like, oh, I'm 60 and I just want to come down to Florida after all this is done. They have they sent one person to the grocery store, bro. It's like one person, and he's out there looking like Ralphie from what's the movie? A Christmas Story. And he's like, they all like dressed up in like 50 main clothes, and they got like, and they send the youngest person out there because they know they got the best immune system. So that's usually how it goes.
Builds character.
Right. Yeah. You'll be all right. It's just sniffles. You know?
Right.
So.
No, you're good.
Yeah. But I want to talk about moving on. Like, you got a martial arts background, bro.
Yeah. So
they ain't phony kicks you throwing out there. You throwing them lasers. You throwing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt one of those when we wrestled in Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My bad.
I was like,
You was the one.
Terry finally liked the match of mine at the time, and I was like, thank you.
All it costs was my cousin.
Well, someone like you that moves a lot, I got to do whatever I got to do to kind of slow you down and keep you in place.
I'm moving while I can with these.
So what he's saying is this is your fault.
Yeah, of course.
That's
It can't be mine.
Like, I gotta put him down.
What had happened was.
Oh, that's a lie.
Yeah.
That starts off every lie.
Oh Lord,
Oh, man.
oh Lord, the mother of my oldest child is on my chat. Get out of there. That's my daughter, actually.
Oh.
Holding the
Hi, mama.
Hi,
Hey,
boo.
boo-boo.
Hi, booters. Yeah, I'm doing a show. Go away. Go.
Look, don't you
Go
got
get
school work?
Nobody at school. Actually, she should have
There's
school
distance
work.
learning. What you mean?
I get the assignments from my son every week. He better be doing that work.
Listen,
Yeah,
I
do
gotta
your
get up
work.
early in the morning.
It's
and
too
do that
late.
stuff.
Yeah.
Every
My
time I
job
call,
is
I'm on the
never
PS4. Yeah.
Duh. But yeah, moving on. Like, you competed in martial arts tournaments, or how did you get into that?
So my father, he was into martial arts most of his life, and he trained for many years. It's known he sparred with Chuck Norris back in the day.
Oh.
He did 7 hours. Like he was in front of Bruce Lee. You know
Is
what I
your
mean?
daddy John Claude Van Damme?
No, my father
Was he in
knows how to
Game of
fight
Death?
for real.
Oh well,
Was he in Game of Death? That movie that got incomplete? Did he fight for
he said Bloodsport was trash.
No. I'm a big fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme's movies. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
but,
right. But
he was an aerobics instructor that took a few karate lessons.
Ain't no
That
Chuck.
was it.
She could stretch. That's all we're gonna say about
She said
that.
we
Right.
could stretch.
So my dad,
Before we
living
go
with
into
him-
that, I'm gonna cut this stream, and the only way you gonna see the rest of this conversation is if you go to the Swerve City Podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/Swerve City Podcast.
1-0.
Boom. Yeah. Somebody said, "Who is Anaya?" That's my daughter, son. My oldest. I
Oh,
got
boy.
babies, bruh.
but
so
not old enough.
yeah, and somebody wants to know which styles. He's going to answer it, but the only way you're going to answer it and see the answers is if you go on YouTube.com. So bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Want to say bye-bye?
Peace.
Ghost.
Chicken grease.
I didn't even say bye to my people. That's
did, you just left them.
I've never.
you go.
That's the first time I've ever
Thank you,
done
friend.
live.
It's usually how all our guests do. They don't know how to work their own phones.
Yeah,
But
well,
they post a lot of
You don't know how to work your phone, but you know how to karate chop them over.
brother, that's all
kick
you
a
need,
brother
right?
in the
That's
head.
it.
Oh, I know how to throw my phone at somebody.
Well, see,
that's
that's also a talent.
Yeah, that's why I have a big, heavy one, so it just hurts more.
This is true. So what styles did you learn in martial arts?
So
What
I
competitions?
trained primarily in Goju-Ryu. It's a Japanese traditional martial arts. It's actually although it's from Okinawa, but the movie The Karate Kid was based on Goju, that style.
Okay.
Although Daniel LaRusso was really bad at it.
Oh no.
Well, obviously,
So-
he kept getting his butt kicked.
So yeah. So
Why
when I
you
moved
terrible?
with my dad in New York, he obviously trained me, and then he was super strict and with all aspects of life. But when it came to the martial arts, being that I was his son and he owned the school, so he had hundreds of students. I had to be good to him. Like if he was going to tell everybody, "Hey, this is my son. He also fights." I had to be good because he didn't want. It's his rep too. And he was very proud of his background and his accomplishments in it. So I trained really hard. He was really hard on me, but I got really good. And I won 2 big championships, I remember, when I was a teen. And this is pre-UFC. I think UFC 1 and 2 were
so
just happened. So this is before mixed martial arts was even a thing.
Blew up to
Yeah.
mainstream.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
I remember he was training, or had started training to fight in UFC 3. My father was going to compete in it, but then life happens. We had to close down the school and move, and kind of ended up falling out of it. And then, that's how I ended up transitioning eventually to pro wrestling just because I just didn't know what else I was going to do. And
was the competition stiff in the martial arts dojo?
yes, because the way, especially because of my father, everything was full contact. There was no pads. You know, you see like old school, you saw like the tournaments and the taekwondo stuff. They had all the gear and stuff. No, the only thing he would do, for instance, like he'd have little kids 5 years old sparring and fighting. He would put boxing gloves on them. That was it. He would legit tell the parents, like, hey, if you just want to drop off your kids somewhere, take them somewhere else. If they're coming here, they're going to get a black eye. They're going to be missing a tooth every once in a while, but they're going to learn discipline and respect here. And all the parents, especially in the Bronx, they were like, yeah, that's what we want.
Right.
So when the kids wouldn't behave or they were doing bad in school, they would tell them, I'm going to go tell the sensei. And the kids would be like, no, don't tell him. They were more afraid of my father than they were of their own parents.
The young kids kumite.
Right.
It sounds like.
Basically.
Hold up now.
Like they had to show him their report cards and everything. So imagine how it was for me.
So like, I always like talk about the competition being so stiff in like your surroundings. I'm pretty sure you take that same energy, that same discipline, that same learning style from there, moving on to Ring of Honor, and then moving on to NXT. There's always great competition everywhere you go. Like, especially as you climb, you have to learn that at the early age where you are, because a lot of people are just used to getting that pass. Especially when it's something that they're comfortable with, they're comfortable in their surroundings. But when you get into uncomfortable places and everybody's just as good or better, that's where you really gotta tap into finding your keen senses. What makes you special? What makes you push further than the next person? So talk about like going from that into the pro wrestling realm.
Right. So once that happened, obviously life continues. But I was kind of lost, I guess. I just didn't know what I was going to do with life. Basically, I was always a fan of wrestling.
Feel like that was a low point?
Not necessarily a low point. I just didn't know. You always have dreams and stuff that you talk with your buddies about, like maybe we'll do this one day. But there was no specific path. Like people that will go to college, they know what they're going to study for because that's what they want their future to be in. Right. I didn't have that. I didn't know. So to me, it was just job to job, and that was it, just coasting. And I remember a buddy of mine was like that I went to high school with. He straight out told me, he was like, "Hey, we always talked and joked about doing this wrestling thing. Why don't we actually do it?" And I had no clue how to do it at the time. I remember telling him, "What do you mean? Like, well, how do we do that? We just show up to one of the shows and say, 'Hey, we're here to wrestle.' Like, how do you do that?"
That's how it happens now.
In a way, yeah. So, and he was like, "No." He goes, "We got to go to a school. I found some schools." And then,
do a flea market.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Not me personally, but.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's how most people do.
There are people that have done that. For us, we did that. We went down to the Monster Factory in South Jersey. We went there. I met the owner at the time, which was Larry Sharp. Had a good convo with him. And I remember him also putting me in my place in a way where,
it needs to be done.
Mainly because, and this is my first interaction with him, we're talking to him. And at the time, places like the Monster Factory would do tryouts. They wouldn't just accept anybody. They wanted to make sure you were serious about it and that you were even trainable. So I think it was like $50 I paid for the tryout.
That's a steal.
And then, especially in those days.
Wow.
Right.
That is a
Well,
steal.
no. In 2003, it felt like a lot of money, especially since I had to drive 2 hours and I had to pay for gas and tolls.
Yeah.
To me in 2003, $50 on top of everything else, like it was like, okay, this is like we're investing right now.
Yeah.
That's a serious investment.
They probably got a bunch of like receipts and stuff, and they're like, we'll just charge you $50 because.
Right.
You're already getting buku'd up there.
I remember my buddy had the full tuition money, and I think it was like $1,500 or whatever it was.
Yep, that's mine.
Maybe it was more. But either way, he had the full thing, and I remember telling him, I was like, I need a few weeks or whatever I could pay. And then I remember Larry Sharp looked at me and he goes, "I could tell your friend is serious." Oh. He goes, "But you said this is just what you wanted to do your whole life. Why aren't you ready then?"
Wow.
I showed up the following training session with the full amount. I did what I had to do to get that money, showed up and paid them, and I never wanted to feel like that again.
Yep.
Where somebody calls me out on something I said. And then it goes back to the work ethic that I learned from my dad with the martial arts. And it's like, you don't ever want to be called out on something or embarrassed and be put in a situation where you can't deliver what you're saying. And
first impressions.
Oh man, I was so embarrassed. But myself.
But it hits you.
Oh,
it hits you.
Oh yeah, I just remember those words. I'll never forget them. And then something so little as far as, you said this, but then you're lying.
Right.
And basically, I was like, no, don't call me. I'm not a liar. Right. You know, like at least that's the way. That's how I feel. Like,
no, I'm not.
But he was right, obviously. But I never wanted to feel like that again.
Yeah.
And then so I, worked hard. And although I say that, but then I ended up getting lazy again, and then basically coasting for a while. But I surrounded myself with the wrong people too, which part of life that a lot of people make those mistakes. And I had to relearn how to refocus and then put myself on the right track again.
Anybody have a moment where you got called out and you're just I was like, I never want to feel like that again. I'm never going to make that mistake again. But it's like somebody, a senior, somebody like really important, a legend, maybe a mentor, trainer.
Oh, yeah, my mentor.
What was that one? Oh. Because I got mine. I got mine in the chamber. Y'all go first.
Teasy?
I got called out for something.
Yeah, where they just put that knowledge in your brain, but it was like that hard lesson. You just never wanted to you never wanted to make that mistake ever again.
If you don't got mine, I got yours. I got mine.
I mean, that's happened to me a bunch of times.
Right.
What was that one though?
There's always one that usually stands out.
I think that my one came right before all of my like A-dub stuff happened. Mercedes Martinez pulled me to the side, and she was just like, "So I don't know what happened." She's like, "You look great." She's like, "You talk on the mic. It's all great." She's like, "But you've lost your voice." She's like, "And your wrestling does not come across the same way as it used to." And she's like, "I can tell you're just in your head or whatever's got you." She's like, "But you're so quiet in your matches." She's like, "I don't even hear you." She's like, "You're the loudest person on the roster." So I was like,
"Yeah,
you know what? You're right." She's like, "You can't go out in that ring, and you have to be just as loud as you are in the back." And I was like, "You know what? You're absolutely right." So she just like kind of put a fire under my tail, and
that's like putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. And the next thing you know, I had all these opportunities and things were happening, and like even after the tag match, like I like beat myself up because things didn't go like how they were supposed to go or whatever. And she was just like, "No," she's like, "You have it." She's like, "You just have to find that chemistry with other people." Like, and they have to find it with yours.
That takes time.
If you have to, she's like, "You have to slow down." She's like, "Because everybody can't go as fast as you can." And I was like, she's like, "And you have to make it like, you have to fill in that space, but not make it seem like you are slowing down." And I was like, "You know what, you're right." So she just kind of just gave me that
Be
fire.
Walter.
Right, be Walter.
Like for me, when I started making music, like my mentor Shamelo, he would be like, "Put on a beat." I was like, "Okay." So I'd put on the beat and he'd be on the phone. I'd be rapping, just rapping my heart out for 15 minutes, just rapping, just everything I wrote. He'd be like, "It's not good enough, bro." I'd be like, "What?" He'd be
Next.
like, it's kind of like the thing you say with martial arts, and I'll kind of get back to that point. He's like, "It's not good enough, bro." I'd sit there and I'd go back, start writing. It's not good enough, man. It's not. I've heard better. Like, you know who I've been in the studio with, bro? Like,
and that's the hardest thing, because like, of course you heard better in rap.
And then like 15, like it took, like, so I started talking to him when I was 14. He did not tell me I was good to maybe I was like 23. And this is me talking to him maybe twice a week, twice, 2-3 times a week. He's like, the first time I was like 23, he was like, "All right."
I had an argument with somebody a long time ago, and they was like, talking about what's good and what classifies someone as just being good, and they said, "Well, if they can go in the ring and put on a feasible match, I consider them good." And I'm like, no.
That would be adequate.
I'm like, I was like, it takes years to get good. To get actually good, it takes a long time. I don't think you can be good at 2 years in. I don't care how good you are. You're not good. And like, to me, that sounded like lowering the bar and the standards. To just, "Oh no, he can go in there and do a headlock, and he can go in there and like," that's like if you were just a rapper getting in the studio. "Oh, he can like say 16 bars. He's good." No.
Nope.
No. We shouldn't accept good at being here, just feasible, and like pass you on, move on. And I think that's why we have so much of everybody doing so much of everything, because we just accepted good as like a standard barrier.
Yeah.
Well,
you know? I'm like, we need to get back to raising the bar to what good is. I'm like, he's bad, but he He's not terrible. He's bad, but he has potential.
Yeah,
I think we need
is,
potential to
right.
be back a thing.
And a lot of people can wrestle and put on a match.
Shoot,
okay, but little
AJ can wrestle,
and it goes to anything
Doesn't
in
mean
life,
double knee.
right? To whatever you do in life, it goes to anything. Anybody can do a job, but now can you do it? Number one, with longevity, at a certain
can you excel?
Right, and at a certain level, and excel for a good amount of time, not just one day. You can't
consistency.
You could be lucky, but you can't be successful over time and be consistent without actually being good. And that's the difference. And and I agree with you where everybody just has I think an understanding of what's good now. And that's for a lot of things, not just I'm not talking about wrestling necessarily.
I feel like the template has been figured out to get to good.
Right, from good to go from A to B and B to C, but there's no it's not coming from in.
No.
But on the contrary though, like so 1 second, I'm sorry. On the contrary though, like when does it come to a point where you just have to strictly say, okay, I have to believe in myself and I don't care what anybody else says?
Well,
what is that balance?
See, that's the tricky part, and nobody can tell you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as me answering that question with an exact answer.
For you.
For you.
Right.
Right.
For her.
There's
Right.
no,
Everything's
Right.
different
It
for
just-
every person.
one day stuff clicks. One day you just get it.
And it's hard to explain that to people that are just jumping into like the whatever field of entertainment, whatever job. It's like what do I have to do to get it?
One day it'll just
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
that's
just
usually how it
clicked.
happens.
And you're like,
and it happens in a lot of different ways because it can't just be one thing. I know for me, I wrestled. This is my 16th year. For the first 12, no one had a clue who I was unless you were in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And that was because I coasted and because I was surrounded by people who weren't speaking to you like the story you just told or like my father. It was basically, oh, you're fine.
Yep.
That's good, which is
That's
the
the
worst
worst
thing.
thing.
That's
I
the
needed.
worst thing, dude.
complacency
But-
and being good.
And that's
Everybody's
and
okay
then,
with
exactly.
being good.
And then I got lazy and I got out of shape. And then, but one day it clicked. And it was, I remember I had a job and my bosses asked me, they're like, hey, we want you to keep you around. We want to do this and that, but you got to stop doing that wrestling thing, and that was it. And I was like, you got my 2 weeks notice without hesitation. But then it was like, oh man, wait, what did I just do?
I better get good.
So then it's like, well, I really got to give this my all now because
Yeah.
I can't have an
Right.
excuse. But that day it clicked.
It's
I lost
that point
I
where you
lost like
give your all
140
to
pounds.
it. Yeah.
Oh God.
And I completely changed my life. I mean, I surrounded myself with different people. I was never into the power positivity, and I just didn't believe in it.
That mindset, that energy gets around you.
Oh
man,
my! I will
catapult.
I put it over. And it's not doesn't mean that you're just going to be successful just because you think positive, but you're not miserable. I try to look at the positives in every situation. Sometimes it's hard, yes, but if you do that more often than not, you're gonna be okay. Because being miserable and being negative, you start overlooking opportunities in the good, and then you hold yourself back. And I think that's where it comes into effect. And for me, it's worked out because I started thinking more positively, and then just focus on that and just focus on that goal instead of trying to take a step back and focus on what bad just happened. Like I don't even want to talk about it. I just want to keep going forward and keep going forward.
I'm gonna tell my story before I pass it on to Teasy. So, you had Larry Pierce, Sharp. You had Mercedes. You had Shamelo. I had New Jack.
Oh.
Word?
Woo.
Yeah, Dark Side of the Ring, New Jack. Vice, New Jack. I'll never forget the story.
That's two less, New Jack.
Jesus. And this was after said stories happened. So, I'll never forget, I was at CZW. I had a match earlier in the day. No, I had a match later on in the show, right? So fans are already in the building and stuff. I'm walking to the merch table, and I'm walking in my gear and a hoodie. So right off the bat, that's bad etiquette. And like I'm walking over there just to pick up a shirt or something because I'm going to wear it to the ring. So I'm walking over there, right? And Jack is sitting on the side. He's like, hey, you! Hey! Come here. Come here. I'm like, oh, Lord. So I go over there, walk over to Jack. He's like, so why are you out here in front of all these fans with your gear on? I was like, oh, I was just running to the merch. Why are you out here in front of all these fans with your gear on?
You like a stripper showing off your ass before you even get up on the pole. You know what? You are worth not a damn dime to your name. Well, sorry, it's like, get out my face. And ever since then, I never went out like with gear on. I've always like, nope. And still to this day, I don't go out or go upstairs to go to the back. Nope, I fully clothed gear. I don't show nobody my gear before it's time for showtime. And Jack instilled that in me. And I never fought back because, like, are you going to fight back against New Jack? No. We've seen people try.
No, but that's legit advice. Like, that's good.
It's great.
Because I believe in that as well. Yeah. The perception of who you are, like,
exactly.
it holds weight.
It's presentation.
Yes.
But that also carried on to other things. I'm like, it made me sit like, what else am I doing that's like, I really had to check myself and like take a step back and look at everything that I did. All my habits changed after that conversation. I'll never forget I've worked with New Jack on a run-in before, and he broke a crutch on my back and stuff. Safe. I survived. But
he complains about my kick. You see this, right?
Your kick must have been stiff, brother.
I mean,
I had kick pads on, bro.
Oh, dang. Well,
that's what that was.
Yeah, that's
what he's saying is that your leg it's like metal.
Yeah, if it was a live event, my live event gear, I use kick pads. I take it easy on people on live events.
I went through Cage of Death, and it didn't feel as bad as your kick pad.
Ah, nice line. Definitely lying.
Nah, but yeah, it's just like whether it be like saying some stuff to straight up honest with you and calling you out on your stuff, whether it's like telling you like what you need to do, like whether it's just like saying, hey, you're not good enough and you're not good enough, or just putting the fear of God into somebody at like 23 years old. You do what you got to do, and sometimes that stuff like it just hits hard, and I think a lot of people need those like wake up calls. They need those times where like somebody's just gonna call you, hey, you suck.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes it needs to be hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes it needs like, have you ever seen the movie Whiplash?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
Oh, God.
I was like, because then like when I talked to Sharmello about it, I asked him why. I was like, why'd you do that?
Why you riding me like a rodeo, homie?
Yeah, it was like years. I'm like, what? He's like, I just wanted you to get used to negative reactions. And
them comment sections don't look as bad as Sharmello now.
Right, exactly. He's like, I wanted you to get used to the negative press or with negative comments, and you
especially with music,
and you build a tolerance to it so where it doesn't affect you and you don't become emotional about it. And it's like, okay, because he's like, I'm pretty sure you would say something about another rapper and that would be your opinion, and however they took it is how they took it, but that wouldn't change your opinion. So if someone had said opinion about you, would you get emotional about it? And he told me that I was like 15, I was like, and it like stunned me.
At 15, that hits
it hits kind of different.
Yeah,
I was in the bed watching Stone Cold. Like, what is he talking about?
She was covering up like, oh,
what's he talking about? But now I get it. So it was great advice.
So going on the Teasy table, take it away, brother.
Thank you, my brother. So let's get into music, man. Tell me, so what's some of your musical inspirations, man? Who's some?
I mean, it's changed over the years, but
what did it start with then?
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
I've started with some.
Take us back to the beginning.
Me too. I love some Saint Lunatics Nelly, bruh. It's a little different at 25.
I like Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
Oh wow,
I was very, very old. Old soul.
I'm like, oh, granny.
Old soul.
I'm a swole.
For me, I know when I was a kid, I was mainly into hip hop, being that I was from the Bronx and whatnot. And then I moved up it's outside the city in New York, and I made different friends, and they were into rock and heavy metal. And then I used to hate it, but like my best friend, who's the same one that we got into wrestling together, he would always put it on. And at first, I'd be like, "Oh, turn that rock crap off," like I hated it. But then little by little, like certain things I would weave. And then I was always a big fan of The Undertaker. So then I'd be like, play Taker music. Like something he would come out to.
It's so funny. It's always the wrestling music that transitions us. It's always the wrestling music.
Little by little, I started getting into certain songs and certain bands just because certain, like the feel of the vibe of certain songs reminded me of The Undertaker.
Yep.
Right.
And that's literally how I got into rock and heavy metal. And then... And the 90s was when the big rise of rock rap, like there was some of those in the 80s as well, but they weren't
the game before you the
but they never made it as big
His impressions be on point, bro.
They weren't as big as
Oh
yeah.
God!
In the-
Oh, for the nookie, the nookie, all that. I'm like, why is he hitting spin bars to this electric guitar, man?
So I wasn't. It's not necessarily that I was huge into those, but that was an easier transition for me.
It was.
You know, like
Mine was
yeah, so
video
Limp
games.
Bizkit and Kid Rock. You know, it was
Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk.
I swear to God, Tony Hawk raised
Tony-
me on that soundtrack.
Listen.
Well, you know, I used to go to
I
school.
did
with-
it all for what I am.
I swear to God, when Tony Hawk came, I used to stunt like I knew who the whole
Bruh,
band
the
was. I'd be like,
whole
Power
thing.
Man
Oh
5000.
no! Oh yeah!
Dude.
I do remember that.
Oh, Static
Yeah.
X. Yeah.
Right.
And then when the Brood appeared
Oh,
and,
oh,
and
God.
their theme song, and I was like,
Oh,
all right, I'm into metal now. That's it.
Mesh shirts, all of it, all day.
Yeah.
All of it.
Surprising, right?
so does that? So now that you had those inspirations and the genre of music changed, who I always ask wrestlers this: who are some of the musical inspirations that helps you with your character and who you are when you come to the ring, like part of who you are?
So character-wise,
Right.
like my character is basically like almost like a 80s, 90s rock star. You
Okay.
know? Or actually, I would say 80s.
Gotcha.
Like more the Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know, that's really the base of my character.
Well, I
is
thought
Motley
you was a
Crue.
vampire.
Yeah.
I thought you was a lost boy vampire.
Everybody expected that automatically, like that I was going to be evil and a vampire and dead. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And then when I came out, everybody was confused because the lights go out, but it's not. It's the presentation. You know, like rock bands come out, they're very much alive. You know, and same thing with the Live Forever thing. It's not literally. It's that I want to be remembered, that I want to accomplish so much that my name
Your
lives
name lives
forever.
forever.
That's the idea of the Live Forever. You know, so I would say my character now, music-wise, I would say it has a lot to do with a combination of hair metal, you know, which is those rock bands from the 80s, you know, where
Right.
they were party guys,
Right.
you know, and between that, and I would do also something like, I don't want to call it gothic, but almost like a soundtrack of The Lost Boys
Right.
or The Crow, where it's like that, but it still has that cool vibe to it, where it's sex appeal. There is some aspects of that, like a Nirvana aspect, but
wouldn't say
it's
grunge.
more so so it has sex appeal, a little bit of like just badass,
I feel like grunge is depressing.
Home dude's just
Right,
like
but
Blade.
under a
you know what I
bridge.
mean? It's just,
but like visually,
Sounds like a
like
Blade.
when they would pose for pictures, yeah.
Blade's cool, a little dark, but the dude's cool.
That's So
Blood could start falling from the ceiling. I wouldn't be mad.
no, I was like, as long as I look cool and I look
Right,
good.
like I'm not gonna cross you.
So that's basically the basis, and that's actually a lot to do with who I am for real. You know, where
Gotcha.
I like to look cool. You know, who doesn't like to go out and have a good time? You know, who doesn't want to be surrounded by people that just admire you? Like it's cool. You know, like
Absolutely.
especially when you're working.
The men want to be you, and the ladies want to be with you.
That's the idea.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, who are in not only relation to some of the inspirations? I always ask people this too. What are some of the best concerts you've been to? What are some of the
Man, that's a long list. Because one of my favorite things to do is, and unfortunately, the summer's ruined. But I was going to go to so many concerts this summer.
I plan on going to a few too. That's dead.
Yeah, I know.
Bro, I was gonna go
I
see
had
Martin
tickets
Lawrence.
to go see him. So
Yeah, I would have gone to see
He was
that
going to
too.
be right here in Orlando.
Sad.
But I like festivals where it's just tons of musicians outdoors. I
like
I
festivals.
got into them when I was younger, a
Like
teenager.
bands.
Yeah,
Band tour.
I like it.
so, yeah. Just I love that stuff. Just because it's all day. There's different bands. There's different even genres of music going on at the same time with different stages. I like those. I've always enjoyed those. You know, I got
Nah, my
I
bad.
got
My
the
knees hurt.
opportunity to do. I got the opportunity to do Download Fest in the UK.
Oh yeah, you talked about that.
And it was a big rock and metal festival, but it also NXT set up a ring.
I'm so jealous.
and we had our tent, and we had matches, but it was really funny. I would wrestle, get changed, and then run to see bands. With the guys and people I'm friends with, and I had a ball because that was two loves of mine that I get to do at the same time, and then I got hanging out and meeting certain performers, and it was just neat. That was one of my favorite ones to do. So I like festivals.
The thing is though, like going to festivals and shows, hip hop shows, any kind of show of any genre. I've always find that it's always the most fun to go to their shows, not when they're like at the very bottom or at their peak. When they're like right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is
Like
awesome because I've seen so many bands that were there and now they're just huge.
Yeah.
But
You can't
yeah,
see them like easy.
They're
as
in
you
that
used
zone.
to.
The performances, they're not like at the peak, like where like their first album blows up, but they're not like at the very bottom either.
Right,
It's
right.
like
Yeah.
you can see it hitting that groove. They come a couple times a year. Each show gets better, and you feel like you grow as a person.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Saw a
I agree
whole
with
bunch
you.
of them like that.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. And then when they grow, and you see them, you be like, oh, okay, I remember when they were, on their come up.
I just see Big Sean live right when Finally Famous came out.
Okay, yeah.
And then that's where his tickets were like $25 to go see him.
It'll
And
be
then,
the best
now it's gonna
times,
be-
dude. It'd be like 100 people in there, 200 people.
Yeah, it was like a 300 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm like,
It'll
yo,
be them shows.
That's funny.
no seats, just
Lil
Yeah,
Webby.
yeah.
yeah,
Those
just
are
general
the great
admission.
ones.
See
Yeah.
Web?
Yeah.
Webby, yes, Webby. So
Oh
Webby.
man,
Absolutely.
David Banner, that was a fun one.
Which era, David Banner? Which era?
Right before,
This is like a
It's
pimp.
important. It's important.
right
going to
before,
define a lot. This is like a pimp.
girl, make come on, girl.
Oh, play.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right before Play.
Okay.
Right
okay.
before
Right before play. Okay, so it's
Okay.
after like a pimp.
Yeah.
This
Like
before.
a pimp, man.
Man, like a pimp.
okay,
Listen.
beat still
So this
ride.
is not chubby David. This is not activist David. This
No,
is
no, yeah, it's right
in
between.
between.
Literally in the middle.
dyed
Right in
beard. Dyed beard banner.
Like I saw Mario before that second album hit,
Oh,
and I was like, oh, he was dancing. He was getting it.
I never
He was
thought he was
getting
that
it.
good of a dancer.
He was getting it.
I saw him
Whatever them
last
girls
year.
was
He
doing,
ain't,
was
he ain't
getting it.
danced since let me love you. If you
Oh,
think
no.
about it. I said, because when Mario said touch, he said, ooh.
I saw him last year, and when the backup dancer's getting you, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, yo, this homie back there is kind of getting it.
He's like, I want to know when everybody, the other guys is over there getting it. He's like,
Yeah,
he's like, I'm trying to go home right now.
he
He's like,
filled up the Millie Wop and he ain't done. I'm done.
so let's take it over
Help!
in the Swole's world, sis.
You stupid. Okay.
How do I nay? What?
Right.
What?
Who is Nene and why am I waving to her?
What is that, velvet?
So a man goes into
Do I
a
shake my hips with it? I can't figure.
Wait.
So
a man goes in a
How do we do
restaurant.
it?
He
I
sits
can't.
down and he says, let me get the soup. The way it comes over, it said, taste the soup. Would you just taste the soup? And I said, is it hot or is it cold? He said, would you just taste the soup? He said, okay, where's the spoon?
Pretty good.
What do you know funny, you bastard?
That boy good.
That boy good. Recommasiata. That's the one.
That boy good.
Sorry, look.
Good and terrible.
Oh, man. Sorry, it's one of my favorite movies. I can go on that all
right,
day long.
tell.
All right, so,
You don't want to be in our group chats. It's bad.
Oh, I'm not a fan of group chats.
Fights.
So,
You're not.
regardless-
I remember this. You're not.
Man.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're like, what? Is that? They're not even talking to me.
Right.
What the heck?
No, now we'll see. All right, so just got
Killing
done.
this table. I'm
Right,
sorry.
sorry. Look, usually I'm not the one to bang the table. I'm the one to tell
His
people about banging the
headphones is
table,
going-
but it's been a minute. My bad.
I haven't touched it.
Yes, you have.
Yes, you have. Don't play.
What are you gonna do about it?
Oh!
No.
I don't want no problems. You want some of this too, old man? Huh?
Get in the car.
No.
Come here, messing
No.
Coming down here messing with these people.
Go down.
He said,
All right. So, what do you do to relax? Like you just got done wrestling, you come home. What's the first thing you do
Oof.
to ease your mind?
That I'm.
If I could write sketch comedy, I would have you come like you just did your match or takeover, killed it, come through the door, boom, and you just put in a foot spa,
A foot spa.
and you just.
Wow, that's
I would
Right.
write that.
nice
as a sketch.
comedy show, but I
What
think
is-
I'm closer to who would you expect Damian Priest to be, and you know that after their show. Yeah, I'm.
He's partying.
Yeah, I'm
He's
going-
going
yeah.
out.
Partying.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yep.
It's almost like I gotta celebrate. I celebrate every day.
I just killed somebody.
Kick that dude in the head really hard. I'm
I
going.
love having a good time.
Yeah.
That's not fake. That's really real. Every day.
Life of the
if I
party.
could have a good time every day, I will. If I could also help somebody else have a better time, I will.
Use
You
the
know,
F
like
word.
I love. Like I said, I just
You're like an extrovert. You've always been like,
maybe, and I think
Okay.
more so now than ever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, wait, so if I'm portraying this, I don't have to hide. You know, like. No, I'm gonna go all out, and that's kind of like, yeah. So after a show, yeah, I'll go take a shower, get changed, and let's go out, let's go
Right
do
back
something, do something. You know,
Let's rock.
obviously, you know, not getting reckless, or at least I try not to.
I'm like, right.
Try not to, but for the most part, yeah, I like, yeah, I just go out and have a good time, whether it's even if it's just go out and eat. But I like socializing, I like being around people, where I could just be normal,
Right.
You know, not be the TV Damian Priest. I don't
And just breathe and just be yourself.
and hang out with and
That's-
meet
yeah.
people
That's
and,
awesome.
and, you know, interact with other people just for the sake of
I
interaction.
like when people are your zen and they're just bring you in and you're just like, okay, yes.
Because
I'm
yeah,
just calm.
yes, and I 100% believe that you could learn something from everybody.
Right.
You know, and even in a small conversation, you know, you could just learn like, oh, I could do that in my life or not do that because look at the way they are. You know, however you look at it. But so I love it, socializing, interacting with people.
Yeah. Did you already have friends moving down here or
A
was it
few.
easier to adjust?
Not necessarily as far as like, you know, I knew people. I wrestled a lot of the guys and whatnot, and shared locker rooms with guys and girls. But friends, I had one, like actual friends, or two actually. But that we were hung out for years, so to speak. Everybody else I only knew through wrestling.
Right. So don't get your feelings hurt if you're not one of the two.
Right. Yeah.
They
but
watching
we
this.
were.
I hope
You'd be
it's
like, that's me.
But we didn't hang out. You know, like there's a lot of people that I knew, and we were friendly.
Right.
You know, but to say like we were those type of friends,
Right.
no.
If I see you out of work, then okay, cool. Then we cool. But outside of that, it's like we acquaintance.
Right. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of us didn't live close to each other, so it wasn't like it was even possible to interact like on that level with certain people. You know, and you're always seeing different. You guys know, like you're always seeing different people and different up and comers and whatnot. So you meet a lot of people anyway. But you know, so in that aspect, not necessarily that I had a lot of friends here. I had a lot of people that I knew.
Right.
But I was basically by myself when I first moved here. You know, like for a few months where I just stayed by myself. So the quarantine is pretty easy for me in that aspect.
It's like a little bit of both.
Although the only thing that's changed
That party.
now.
The party life, though.
That's what I was about to say.
You can have
That's
a
the
good
only
time
bummer.
with 10
Now that I
folks.
actually know the area and know where to go and I've met people, yeah, now it's a bummer because now I'm stuck.
All that years of research.
Yeah.
Right. Down train. You can call 9 friends and be like, hey, come over and watch The Lost Boys. You do that.
Yeah.
You get 9 people, you ain't watching movies. You are wilding.
Well,
So
yeah.
the other day, a buddy of mine came over. I stopped by for a quick minute, and my TV was on pause, and you could see like different suggestions and stuff. And The Lost Boys was the first one, and he's like, "Did you just watch this on repeat?" And I started laughing. It was legit, just random happenstance. Like it wasn't like I didn't.
It's literally the best movie. One of the best movies.
I haven't
out
watched it in
there.
a long
It's
time.
so.
But it did come on like maybe like a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, yeah.
They were just at the. There's a horror convention here in Orlando called Spooky Con. And they were here. Like
didn't
the
know that.
cast
I
were
saw
here.
that.
Yeah, it was dope. And Shannon Elizabeth.
Oh.
Look exactly.
Oh.
Like how she's supposed to look. It's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Everybody,
Easy,
yeah,
boys.
her line was
Follow me.
long.
Come on,
Look.
man.
Oh, yeah, I
Right.
bet.
Everybody was in
American
that line.
Pie.
Right.
Yeah, baby. Ooh.
Nadia. That was her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nadia.
Nadia's coming back.
Nadia.
Teasy Scott on social media. Follow me.
Yeah, Shannon.
Joe shot.
Yeah.
Might as well. This
Do
year
it.
can't. You know, it's
Might as
already
well.
down the tank. Might as well. You ain't. Might as well go.
It's always done nowadays. So.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that though, did you hear about that about Hollywood not trying to go about might go on strike
For why? They got all the money.
because they don't want to with all this stuff going on.
They don't wanna stop
They want to get
production.
back to work. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they don't want to stop production.
Absolutely. They don't want to stop.
That sounds like a personal problem.
And
People
then
out here
Disney
sick.
man.
Well, nobody
Talking about-
wants to stop, but it's it is what it is. Like
All I'm saying, this whole entire thing just proves that we make the world go round, but they don't really care about that
negative.
at all. They just want their businesses back open.
That's all they.
But you know what? I want my life to
Right.
to be the way I'd like my
I
life.
would
So
like
they
to
want
go
their
back.
business to go. I don't blame people
Don't
for
blame
wanting
them, yeah.
stuff the way they want it and complaining or doing what they have to do. Obviously, do I agree with everything? No, but it's not my place to agree or disagree on somebody else's life or their business,
Or lives.
So, so I get it, and I might disagree with some stuff, but I understand where businesses and people are coming from. Like, it's theirs.
Right.
Who wants their stuff to not be as successful as they know it can be, or not progress as they see it as it should? So I get it, but
Somebody want to go.
the world's falling right now. So
Yeah.
Some of the movies Olympus is falling. Yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard from a couple of music industry buddies of mine that from what they're saying, that festivals aren't returning till next year, like late next
fall.
year.
yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
I just
I don't think
They
that's
just
fine.
reopened Georgia.
Oh, for real?
for certain things,
Yeah, for certain things,
under. See, I think with
barbershop.
restriction,
Gyms and barbershops.
with a lot
and
of
stuff.
restrictions,
Lot, yeah.
which is cool. I mean, if it's gonna,
You get
if it's
10
gonna
reps and you
eventually
gotta
it has
go.
to, eventually it has to happen.
That's what I'm saying. Eventually,
So-
they're going to have to get to a point where
Like
they can
because
find a way.
at the end of the day, like while we're taking precautions at the moment so that we could resume to some type of normalcy. Obviously the world's never going to go back to the way it used to be, but
Right,
at least
there's new
some type
normal.
of norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point moves have to be made because at the end of the day, this is not living. So if what's the point of being careful to stay alive if we can't live? So there's something to that too. So right now it's a little bit of a sacrifice so that we could get to back to some norm. Hopefully, but hopefully once the proper, guidelines are set in place and we start opening businesses and started going back to living, hopefully everybody could stay safe at least,
What's the one thing that you're looking forward to the most?
as far as
Movies.
Oh, as far as,
As far as when
things-
everything's like the new normal is established,
I think actually-
what's the number one thing you're going to go do?
They
Well, like,
canceled My Last of Us too.
I mean,
they did. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry,
Indefinitely.
Sugarfoot. Yeah,
Canceled it.
it's still gonna come out, but they wanted to
but
come
they-
out where they couldn't
they
make no
lied.
money on no
I'm
physical
waiting for
copies.
season finales. Like they did a lot of TV shows got put on hold, and I'm like,
Hey.
come on now.
Right,
So,
right.
but what am I? So something
Outside.
right? Something that I'm able.
Look, let me point out here. Look, TVs does not count.
No. So something that I'm looking forward to that I can say publicly.
Well?
Socializing. To be honest,
Yeah.
just like
Just going to like a party.
well,
just
everything
meet
I
with
just
friends,
talked about,
yeah.
that what I like to do, like I just want to do all that stuff again. I want to interact with people.
Hmm.
I want human interaction, and people just loving life again.
Bro,
I
like,
want to
I-
be loved.
I can't tell you how many times I got responses at the gas station like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like,
Right, yeah, and I
Oh.
again, I don't have to agree with it, but I get it.
I
I
can't
get
get
it.
mad. I'm like,
Yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
I went to the grocery store
Mm.
today, and the lady behind the counter treated me like that, and I was fully covered and everything, but I get where she's coming from. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't want to, everybody's whether they're afraid or they're dealing with a lot of stuff in their personal lives. I get it,
Oh yeah. Now, like maybe like a couple months ago, not so much, but now a lot of people that I know are starting to have people that are closest to them being affected by it. So
That's the issue,
It's
that
also getting more realization.
Now it's getting closer to home for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Right.
Because at first it was just like, oh, this celebrity, Tom Hanks,
Right.
Right.
Now
One
it's like,
here and there randoms, and
Right.
but
It's like an olive branch away. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
as long as it's not
Okay.
physically affecting your immediate life and surrounding, it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
You
you can't imagine.
But
it,
now it is for everybody.
Mhm.
So
Now it's real.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but man, I think it's about time we close this up. I had a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy.
It was fun.
It's great.
That was quick.
We did good. I told you we do a
fast.
quick 45-hour,
I
man.
didn't even talk about anything.
We
Talk about
talked a lot. We
everything.
talked
I
about a lot of
don't even remember
things.
what we talked about.
Exactly, we didn't touch on everything on this book. I'll tell you that much.
We talk about all types of stuff.
We did things. We brought up memories.
We did things.
I always like one thing I'll close with. I'm like, what was a real like low point for you that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are today? Inspire somebody.
Man, I have I think it's on YouTube somewhere. It's a speech I gave at the Monster Factory. Within the last few
yeah.
years, that I gave to a lot of students. And so if any of them are watching, they're like, "Oh, here we go again, the same speech."
Shut up and learn.
But a few of them were like, it actually did help a few of them. And it was basically like, I've dealt with a lot of stuff, but if I could say one thing that I know that I learned is, and from going from your lowest to your highest, is not to waste your time. You know, and I, like the one advice I gave to the students, and I was like, don't be me. And this is before I had a job. So to me, I didn't think I'd written off the WWE, and I never thought I'd have a chance. You know, luckily, I'm fortunate enough to now have gotten it. But at the time, I didn't think so. But I was still positive. But my message to everybody was, don't be me. Don't wait. You know, right now, everybody knows everything now with social media and everything. Like, there's no excuse to anything now. We talked about whether it was a parent or a friend or a mentor, the advice that we have gotten and the way we were treated. Everybody knows this stuff now. You know, like we didn't have other surroundings that where we could have just seen that on TV or seen that in a podcast, or, you know, the world knows. So it's on to each and every individual person to succeed or fail in life. And you know better. So you're making a choice to either succeed or fail.
It's
like
literally
you're
on
making
you.
the choice. So I just, if you really want to do something, you just don't waste your time. Just start now and go 100. Like, especially like, let's say our business, it's a horrible hobby to have. It's, you know, I mean, if you want to be a weekend warrior, I get it, but it sucks. It hurts. You make little money. You don't get respect, not on that, especially on that level. You don't get respect. You know, everybody makes fun of you. You know, like, so
in your bubble, maybe you might get some.
Yeah,
but outside when you go to be an actual
and that's not
person,
just this business actually.
Comedians
and music industry is the same thing. Where, you know, if you're not completely successful, you know, people look down on you.
People want to see results first.
So
they be hoarding them flowers,
especially when you're different from what everybody else is doing.
Right. So if you're gonna do something, do it.
Especially being the first.
You can't just tiptoe around. You can't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, I get having a safety net, but man, nobody's gonna work for your dream, right? It's your dream. You got to work for it yourself. So
and believe in it like wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and believe in yourself. So I would say, like, that's what I got out of my life. At my lowest, I was low. You know, I was miserable. I was a loser, and it took a lot for me to change my whole life. And it was the whole life. It was my visual surrounding, physical surrounding, people, the words, everything. You know, work ethic and. Yeah, but I'm no regrets. Like, I love the story I have, and if somebody can benefit for it, it's cool, you know. And I made it, you know.
Absolutely.
I made it to where I am,
Absolutely.
and if this would be it, I'd be okay with that. I gave it my all.
Series. My man was in Survivor Series, y'all.
I got RKO'd, bro.
I
got to stomp him.
Oh, no, that's cool. I set him up for the reckoning, but then he got me.
he's kind of good.
Yeah, he's really good.
You ain't put this on the list.
You put them.
You got to come back.
Yeah, we always have more.
Right.
Yeah, man. Where they can follow you, Archer of Infamy.
Yeah.
Everything, man. Social media, Archer of Infamy.
That's it.
Yeah. Shoot. Isaiah Swerve Scott on IG, Twitter, Swerve Confident.
The Big Swole on Instagram and Swole World on Twitter.
Teasy Scott, Instagram, Twitter, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swerve
And go
City Podcast.
stream that from humble beginnings.
Absolutely. Stream that catalog, man.
Y'all gonna like it. Nice, smooth, 35-minute, 10-song listen. It's beautiful. You can also listen to it if you don't have any of the streaming platforms. It's on our YouTube. YouTube.com.
Leo Rush.
We
Big Swole.
Man, let's talk about the features. We got
McKay.
Swole with the vocals on there, nice vocals.
Right.
Leo Rush singing
Mickey
on
Fax.
Need Help, man. Mickey Fax with the hook.
Mega
Ran. Dub singing
got some
on 2 of the
rappers.
tracks. Our man Dub, listen to his voice. The man's incredible, talented dude. With Trump Savage helping produce that track.
Absolutely.
As well.
Shout out to him.
And Juice.
Not to mention Juice from Flatbush Zombies in our new video that's also on youtube.com/Swerve City Podcast. Body art featuring Swole, featuring Caden Carter up in there. We got I'm the Man with D.A. Brewer in the video, D.O. Madden, Cedric Alexander. and Angelo Dawkins,
Baby.
one half of the Raw Tag Team Champions, man. We doing big things, but the only way you're going to see all this stuff, there's only one way you can go to, and that's the YouTube, youtube.com/Swerve City Podcast. And always be confident in everything you do.
Wash your ass.
Or you're going to get a pop.
Oof.
We mean.
I'm not.
Yeah.